Now, I suspect only one of us here tonight can truly say they actually gave James Bond a golf lesson. When Sean Connery needed a little bit of help with his game as he was filming Goldfinger, he called none other than Peter Alliss. Who else would you call? And who wouldn't want to play with a man known as the voice of golf? Since the 1950s, Peter Alliss has played and later broadcast with a style and panache that would make even 007 tip his cap. To present Peter is his longtime friend, 7-time Emmy-winning television producer, Terry Jastrow.
Never let it be said Peter Alliss doesn't know how to make an entrance. He was born in Berlin, a 14-pound, 12-ounce baby, biggest ever in Europe at the time, and emerged with a golf club in one hand and a wine goblet in the other. His golf professional father, Percy, returned the family to England, where Peter spent his youth mischief-making and managing to pick up his first golf club at the ripe old age of 18 months. At 14, Peter decided he'd had all the formal education he needed and dropped out of school. 2 years later, at 16, he turned professional and competed with distinction for 27 years. Highlights include playing 25 times in the Open Championship, finishing in the top 10 5 times. He played in 8 Ryder Cups, winning his share of matches, and along with his papa Percy, were the first father and son to compete for the Ryder Cup.
Here's Peter Alliss, powerful, elegant.
During a 15-year stretch between 1954 and 1969, Peter won 21 tournaments, including 5 Opens, the Spanish twice, the Italian, Portuguese, and Brazilian once. He won 3 of these Opens in consecutive weeks, which had never been done before and will never be done again because of scheduling changes. By all accounts, Peter was among the best tee-to-green players of his day, prompting the Daily Telegraph to note, "Alliss is one of the finest strikers of the golf ball in the land."
Coming right straight at the flag, and what a beautiful shot. It's running right straight at the flag, gee. What a great golf shot. Magnificent shot.
In 1961, when Peter was 30, a very great thing happened for the sport of golf. That year, when Arnold Palmer was winning his first Open Championship, the venerable BBC first hired Peter as a commentator. It would be fair to say that both master craftsmen have played their respective roles in spreading the popularity of the game to all corners of the earth. Consider Peter's commentary career, like Byron Nelson's 11 tournament wins in a row and Jack Nicklaus's 18 major championship victories. It is a record that could well stand for all time. Peter's clever, charming, ironic, often humorous, sometimes sardonic, always interesting commentary has graced the airways for 51 consecutive years.
This for a 3. And he's just done it. Oh! You think he enjoyed that one?
Peter added his distinctive voice and perspective to elevate every telecast. Working jointly for the BBC and ABC, counting this year's Masters, Peter has commentated at 190 major championships. Repeat for clarity, 190 majors. Peter's unique quality is that he can add perspective and gravitas to even the greatest of moments with his commentary and can infuse even the quiet moments of the game with a humanity and sense of humor that communicates to all viewers, golfers and non-golfers alike.
Please go in. We don't want any anticlimax. No, well done.
As we all know from listening to Peter, he is peerless with his magical use of the English language. Again, quoting the Daily Telegraph, when it comes to painting a picture with words, Alliss is nothing short of Rembrandt.
And he only needed one. Elementary, my dear Watson.
I once asked ABC's legendary television sports producer, Roone Arledge, what are the qualities of a great announcer? Roone said having a keen knowledge of the game is just the beginning. The best announcers have a childlike passion for the game. Their love and appreciation of the game is so infectious that those watching at home feel that something interesting and important is happening. Roone went on to say that his private test was, what kind of dinner partner do they make? The best are full of fun and humor and keep you entertained for hours, just what's needed when audiences invite them into their home for a telecast. On this particular account, Peter is and always has been the undisputed champion of the world. Ladies and gentlemen, since the very inception of the beautiful love affair between television and the sport of golf, this is the greatest golf commentator of them all, England's Peter Alliss.
Well, thank you, Terry, for that very understated welcome. I've watched a lot of these ceremonies, you know, the Oscars and the Emmys, and I've always marveled at everyone who goes up to get a prize, and they never know what to say, do they? And they're all in tears and they're all gushing and they're saying how surprised they are. But I always assumed they'd know who'd won the prizes maybe a few days before. The two people I should really thank, first of all, are my mother and father. The first competition I ever played was 1946, the Boys' Championship, played on the west side of Edinburgh at a course called Bruntsfield. I was installed as one of the favourites to win, sailed through a few rounds, and then I was up against a little lad called Donald Dunstan in the semi-finals, a rather pasty, pale-looking boy with very bad complexion. And I was 6 foot tall and bordering on the beautiful, I suppose, at that time. I really was. I mean, I look at those old pictures and I really fancied myself at the time. Anyway, we set off and I won the first couple of holes and I was striding. It was a beautiful day. And anyway, he beat me 3-2. Which brought me down to earth a bit. And going back on the train, my father said, well, you've learnt your lesson, you should have done this, you should have defended when you attacked, and da-da-da-da-da-da. He said, but I don't think there's any point in you trying for any further education. You're not going to be a doctor, lawyer, accountant. You could come and be my unpaid assistant at Ferndown. So I thought it was very generous, Dad. He was, remember, a Yorkshireman, and he'd been spending a lot of time with the Scots in the First World War. So it came to pass. I went to work for my dear old dad, and I had no concept at that time, going back a bit crestfallen, having been beaten by this pimply-faced youth, when I had so much to offer. I had no idea that the game of golf would take me down so many wonderful paths. But of all the places and things I've had, people say, which part of your life did you enjoy the most? I've enjoyed it all, because I've never really worked very hard at it, as dear old Gary Player will absolutely guarantee that he never saw me out practicing. I used to hit a dozen balls with a 2-iron. I was bloody good with a 2-iron, one of the most difficult clubs to use. And the ground was a bit rough, and if I hit sort of 7 decent ones out of 10, I didn't see the point in spending there all day long hitting any more. I knew how it worked, and if it went all right, it was fine. I must tell Tiger that one day if I get a chance to see him. But it was a wonderful time for learning, and then, of course, in the I started doing television in the early 60s, and by 1974, Pro Celebrity Golf had started. And through my association with Mark McCormack and ING, he introduced me to the world of television over here, working for ABC Television. And it's very difficult to pick the BBC or ABC. I'm an Englishman, and of course one is always happiest at home. But I never enjoyed myself more than coming here and working with ABC. Why? Well, they were lovely people. One or two of them shouted a bit and swore, but they didn't swear at me too often, and the big boys always wound up the tournaments. They did the 17th and the 18th hole, so I could clear off after the 16th green. I suppose in 4 days of television I might have actually spoken for about an hour. And they paid me a ridiculous amount of money. I've loved every moment of it. And coming here, and this, I'm not saying this just because you're all here and everyone's looked after my wife and my son and his dear wife, Kelly Rose, while we've been here. I'm not just saying it because of all that, because people are expected to say it. This facility is the most remarkable I've seen in the world of golf. It's sort of golf's answer to Disney World to me, because you go to Disney World and you marvel at what was created there. The museum, the golf courses, the hotel. When you come in from the main road, the way the gardens are prepared, the trees, the staff, the volunteers, it's quite magical. And I've seen a fair bit of stuff in my time. But it is truly amazing the way they've done the museum, the way it's encapsulated all these personal bits and pieces of memorabilia. It's quite stunning, and quite stunning. So it's time to go. I could waffle on for another 4 or 5 hours, but I just want to say this. Think of it often. Because I did leave school early. I was quite bright, but I remember my last report, which was sent home. We had a head mistress at my modest school. It was called Crosby House School. She was a Mrs. Violet Weymouth. And she was a short Welsh woman, about that big and about that wide, and she smoked. She always had a cigarette dangling out of her mouth. And the smoke used to trickle up here, and you could see where the smoke went. It was sort of a brown line up there. But she was... But I remember the last report she sent back to my parents, and it went something like this. Peter does have a brain, but he's rather loath to use it. I fear for his future were the last words she wrote on my report. So Mum and Dad died a long, long time ago. And if there is such a thing as heaven, and if people do look down, well, Mum, Dad, here we are. Look at this lot. Look where I've been, look what I've done. Never worked very hard at it. And it's all fallen into place. Lovely family, lovely wife, looks after me, shouts a bit occasionally, but they are remarkable. They put up with all my nonsense, and I love them dearly. And Mrs. Weymouth, if you're there... Thank you. Good night.